Great. Hi there, my name's Martin Hughes. I'm currently the operations manager for Inverewe Gardens in Corrishalla Gorge. My previous role within the National Trust for Scotland was regional retail development manager. I had the pleasure of doing that role for 3 years, Nicola, and it was great. My role was basically to look at retail across the Northwest Highlands of Scotland and to see how we could develop it, both from a commercial point of view to make more money for the trust, because we're a charity, we need every penny. And then secondly, from a customer point of view, how can we improve the products and the feel of the shops to really join up the visitor experience when they come and visit our great sites. So I was really privileged to look after Culloden Battlefield shop, Glencoe Visitor Centre, Glenfinnan Visitor Centre, here in Inverewe, the retail experience here, Torridon and other wee bits of places, Brodie, all the shops there. So I did that for 3 years, but through all the shops, the biggest project I got around to was Culloden Battlefield, which has the most visitors of all our sites that come through. And it was that one that I entered into the Museum and Heritage Award. And I entered it really just to try and benchmark in my head of how were we doing, because I'm working in a silo, cracking on doing these shops, and first customer feedback's great and the sales are going up and everyone seems to be happy. But I was very much, where are we now in this journey for the last 3 years? So let's just put this submission in and see how we go. And then amazingly, no good news during lockdown relief. We got the news that we'd won it, and it was just spectacular. So we're chuffed to bits, and there's a lot of hard work that came together.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us to talk about that a bit today. I know that a lot of our museums who have had a difficult year have been looking at their retail spaces, thinking both in the run up to Christmas, but also through into next year about how they can sort of diversify that income. So it's just really good to hear a little bit of your thoughts about that. And perhaps you could tell us a little bit about those first sort of steps at Culloden when you first took on looking at the retail redevelopment there, what your kind of vision was for the area and the initial sort of steps, and how you kind of went through implementing those changes and the challenges that you faced.
Yeah, Nick, that's a great question, and I could probably answer that question over a bit of the next hour of what we did. I think that the first thing I did was to take a step back in Culloden and just look at the existing shop. And from a customer point of view, it was really simple things like, how easy is it to get around this shop? So when we have customers coming in with high foot flow, how many spinner stands do we have all over the floor? How easy is it for the customer just to navigate around? So 9 times out of 10, there's normally too many items in the shop because it's just creeped out over the years, and that makes it much harder for the customers to shop. So a step back to try and get clean lines and just to tidy the shop up a wee bit. It was just the basic start. Once you pull all that away, you can then see what you have. So that's just the first thing, is just to look at that shop and a fresh pair of eyes and just try and clear out any clutter, anything's on the floor, anything that's not eye level, just refresh. So that was the first thing, to start with all the shops, especially Culloden. The second piece then is to actually go back to what your visitors are coming for. They're not coming to shop. They're coming to come to your museum or to come to that attraction for XYZ, whatever that may be. And again, it's about visiting that site as a customer again and looking around at the pieces in the museum and the ones that really stand out and resonate with customers. There's always something within the heritage sector that the customers are like, wow, that's really interesting, I love that. Or so TripAdvisor, there's loads of places where you can get information of what your customers are telling you they like about your attraction. And then from that, for me, it was, okay, we've got some stories at Culloden for sure. How do we translate that into product? So very keen to work with Scottish producers and Scottish designers, wherever I could, to get Scottish product into the shops. Now that sometimes means the margin's not quite as good as you may get with a big manufacturer of products. But in my mind, a little bit less margin, but more volume, because the customers are more interested in that product, is a better thing. And then once you've got those stories and what products you want to develop, it's almost like signposting it for the customer. So rather than having these items scattered all over the shop, it's trying to build it into clear themes within your shop to say, okay, this is the story about Jacobites. This is the story about the clans. This is the story about whatever it is in your attraction that the customers are coming for. And almost dropping those stories into either vertical linear space or horizontal space, and then having a look about what the customer journey is again. So when the customer first comes into the shop, what story are you telling first? What's your second story? What's your third story? And trying to map out that shop. And then the last thing is to then step back from that and watch your customers, watch what they're doing. And you might end up going, right, that story just beside the front door, that's not working. Let's move that to the back of the shop. Or let's move this story somewhere else. So you play around with it a bit until you can see the customers starting and moving around your shop. So I'm sorry, that's quite a long answer to a question, but as I said, I could talk about this for the next 2 hours. I'm sorry.
No, it's good, and it's important that people consider that sort of adapting as you make changes as well, being able to be responsive to what's working and what's not working. And you talk a bit about taking those stories and the areas within your museum's collections that your customers are really interested in. And I was reading an article recently about licensing products that museums are looking to doing. Did you look at developing sort of any kind of Culloden range that were directly from your collections in that way and licensing some of that, or not?
Yes. No, Nicola, that's a great option that you can look at to create bespoke items, is what we did, and then potentially you can use those bespoke items elsewhere. I would say for bespoke and for licensing products, the split could be about 60-40. It's a hard bit, but 40% of your range should be bespoke, your stories, and then you still need a core range of items that the customers want to buy every day. I think if you were to go 100% bespoke and just concentrate on those stories, you have a risk then of repeat visitors potentially have seen your shop, and the next year it's the same again. So your core range you can keep refreshing, and it keeps the shop interesting and new. So there's a balance again of between how much you go full on for these stories, and then your core business of shortbread or booze or other items that you need to have in your shop.
And what do you think were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in trying to do? I mean, it's quite a good space that when you go in, it's right there. So people go in, look around the museum, they can kind of see it as they're entering in, or if they're going to the cafe. But quite often you kind of leave via the battlefield. So I guess, and there's that kind of exit through the gift shop idea that people see from museums. So I was wondering if that was maybe a challenge with people sort of leaving and not going past the shop, or were there other challenges that you had to overcome?
I think the main challenge, one of the challenges, is getting products to market that are bespoke. It takes a long time, and it's quite a high financial risk when you're minimum runs to get products in. So the hard bit was trying to get these bespoke items in and taking the time and not feeling pressurized and rushed to say, I need to get this in for next season, do or die, and just acknowledging the fact that if it's not quite right, if the product doesn't look quite right, then don't put it in, pause, stop, hold back until you're confident. Now, it means you have to wait another 2-3 months till it's right, then do it. It's no work cracking on with it, and then you've got dead stock sitting on the shelf. Regarding customers, bypassing your shop as they leave, in Culloden, the team, they did an amazing job of actually joining up retail learning team, catering team, so that everyone was talking about the products in the shop or the experience in the shop had been dropped into our gift shop. We also then started to drop little bits of retail throughout the rest of the experience. So for example, in the catering outlet, everyone loves a magnet, bespoke magnets beside the till points in catering. There's nothing wrong with that. That was great. And then we also used ancestral scrolls in the learning department where customers could find out about their surnames and get a retail product there at the other end of the Culloden experience, which again sort of whet their appetite that there's another shop there that they can add purchases from. So joining it up with not just your retail staff but your whole team is really important.
And you mentioned magnets there as being a sort of top favorite with your customers. Are there other objects that you sell that you find are favored products?
Yes, I call them collectibles. Anything bespoke that is from your visitor experience that tends to be under £5, under £6. If it can fit into a handbag or a bag as a pickup item, quite small, it's just a perfect gift or to take away. So yes, magnets are huge, and My personal preference is to make sure that they weren't acrylic magnets, they weren't plastic made in China, they were made in Scotland, they're made out of wood. There's loads of stuff, creative stuff you can do with magnets, so it's not just your bog standard magnet. Don't underestimate pencils, pens, rulers. Again, they're quite easy to bespoke. You can make them look really great, but those items, there are a lot of commercial income from those little bits and bobs. I call them, pick-up lines collectibles. And if you do them right bespoke, those little items under £5–6, you'll get loads of volume on those. And the customer gets a great gift, great experience to take home and stick onto that fridge.
And as a mum of 2 young kids, they do love going to the Culloden shop to look at your swords and things. So do you think about that sort of kids range as well? Because that's, again, as a parent, that's the bit we kind of get drawn into, and they have lots of fun there as well. They want to reenact wee battles, and it's always very difficult to pull them away. So is that something that you have in your mind when you're designing that?
Yeah, you do. It's interesting. You need to know your customer as well. So if you've got data about who's coming to visit, that then dictates what floor space you give to certain areas. So children's a great example that you said there, Nicola. So in actual fact, for Culloden, the majority of our customers coming through aren't coming with their kids because it's such an international visitor base. And for that, the floor space when I first started there, about 25% of the shop floor was devoted to children's items, which is great. But we weren't getting 25% of our visitors with children. Yeah. So what we did there was we reduced the children's range quite substantially till only about 5 or 6% of the floor space. But we made sure that those 6% of the floor space, the products were absolutely bang on. So yes, we had the ski and doos, we had the wooden swords, we had the little catapult, pencil sharpeners. So a very small, tight range for children, but again, just at the right height for them to get their hands into it and get dirty with it. So for that is to think about what customers come in and what percentage of your floor space you give to that customer.
Yeah, because obviously some museums will perhaps have a large family offering, and some like yourselves maybe a bit smaller because you have a huge international audience, and also because the museum, I think, well, we love bringing the kids for the battlefield. So I guess there's the two. They love being able to run about and the freedom that gives. Of course. The museum, we don't go quite as often. So yeah, that's a good point to sort of know who your market is and then look at your floor space in that way.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just also, do you feel, talking about the award that you won, could you tell us a wee bit more about that process as well, about the sort of submitting and what that kind of means for the organisation as well, to sort of get that kind of accreditation for the work that you did?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, I did it just to benchmark us where we were in our journey within retail, within the trust. The process through the Museum and Heritage site was excellent. It's quite in depth, mind you. We had to submit a 300-word essay on what we'd done and why we'd done it and what was the commercial results at the end of the day. How could we demonstrate that the investment had worked? We also had to put in a short video footage of the shop with a walk around, and in that particular walk around with the video, I was able to pull out the bespoke items we developed for that site and talk a bit more to them piece to camera. That particular video was where the awards timing was shot in December. So I was a wee bit, you're not seeing as our best because it's end of the season and we're not ramping up for spring. So, and there was snow outside the battlefield. So that was the process. So it was very, it was in-depth, comprehensive. It took quite a few hours. I think the more time you put into these submissions, obviously, the better you can get across to your audience. And then from there, what does it mean for the trust? It just shows the development of retail and the faith that the trust has put into the new structure, as it were, for that. It's paid dividends. And for a shop now to say it's an award-winning shop, it means we can start moving that forward again and move it on to the next level and move it out to our other sites and take the best practice that we've done in Culloden for other sites as well. So yeah, it was lovely just to get that recognition to say that we're on the right track. By all means, it's not the finished product and there's still much more we could get after, but we're definitely on track to predominantly get the shop right for a customer. So it's not just tagged on at the end of the customer experience, but it actually adds value to the overall enjoyment of visiting a museum or a heritage attraction. It's a Brucey bonus at the end. That's the way I like to think about it. Not it's a shop at the end, they want to just get us to buy something. It's like, no, it's going to make it just all round a better experience.
It's it's those different offers that really, I think, support museums in being more sustainable going forward. And then it helps raise the profile for the whole area. To some, the Museum and Heritage Awards are really like the Oscars of the museum world. So
Yeah.
it shines a bit of profile and a bit of light on the Highlands as well, and showing that when you come to visit museums, it's part of the whole offer, the cafe and the shopping experience too. And one thing I meant to mention earlier is there any kind of online offer, or do you have thoughts on that? Because I think with a lot of museums being closed this year, or looking at ways that they can just engage with their visitors in more remote locations who might not be traveling this year or into next. Some are looking at that kind of e-commerce options. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, we've got a cracking team down in Edinburgh who've been developing our online website, particularly during COVID and lockdown. And they've got a great series at the moment called Meet the Maker, where they'll be doing online profiles of all the local suppliers that we've been working with, and a question and answer session of when did you start working for the Trust? What do you love about your product in our shops? To raise the profile, the fact that we do work with our local suppliers, and we're really trying to develop the best we have in Scotland to get into our shops, and then tying that into the website so that you'll see those local products online, because many of these products now you can only buy in the shop, and we can get an option to get them online now. The team there have come up with a great idea where some of our sites are now closed for the winter, little posters in the window, directing traffic to the online shop via QR code, which literally I think is happening this week, which is a lovely idea, so that even though we are closed, oh, by the way, we've got all this great stuff that is online, you can go and have a look at it. Just scan up your phone now and get onto our website. So they've had huge success this summer during COVID of directing traffic back onto the online shop, and yeah, great piece of work.
Brilliant. I love those little ideas of the Meet Your Maker videos. You get to know the person behind the product. I think those stories that help bring it alive are really...
Very much so, yeah, it's great.
So just finally, do you think you would have any sort of top tips, the sort of first few things that you would recommend to museums that are looking to redo their retail space while over the sort of quieter winter season?
Yes, right now, if you've got customer data, knowing who's actually coming to your site and the split of ages, international, domestic, children, that's the first point to know who's coming. The second thing I'll suggest is try and take off your jacket and just go and have a day on that site, walk around that museum, walk around your exhibition again, go onto TripAdvisor, go onto any review sites you can get, and find out what the customers love most about it. There's always one particular part that customers just get drawn to. Pull into those, and then once you have 4 or 5 things that you know customers are loving about your site, take a step back again and think differently. What products can we put in? So there might be existing off-the-shelf products that suppliers in Scotland already have that would fit in. So for example, clans, tea towels, there's things you can do quite quickly and easily. And then the bespoke items, again, take a step back and think, right, this is a story, what does it look like? There's loads of suppliers in Scotland that can help you with bespoke items to get it right. And then don't be afraid once you've started to do that, as I said, to take a step back and watch what your customers are doing when they come to shop. So one of the things I'll do, I'll just stand in a shop for 10 minutes. It looks like I'm doing nothing and being lazy, but I'm literally standing there watching customers, watch what they pick up, watch what they put down, watch their eyes, the body language. That tells you so much about what the customer is doing. And then don't be afraid to adjust it, change it, keep it going until you start seeing the increase in sales again.
Adapt and survive. Thank you very much for your time today,
Not
Martin.
at all, Nicola.
About all your work there, and good luck with all the work you are doing over at Inverewe as well.
Thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure talking to you.